recording, and let's go with questions. Who's got questions?
I have a question, Rabbi.
No one's got questions.
I have a question.
Shlomi, if you're talking, we can't hear you. It looks like you're talking. I don't know if you're talking to us or somebody else.
I am
No one's
trying
got
to
questions?
talk. You know.
No, we still can't hear you, Shlomi. His mic's off. Okay.
I'm not confused.
I'm going to assume that Shlomi's not asking a question. Rafi, do you have a question?
I was just saying I can hear Shlomi.
I think everyone. Sorry. Okay, no, it's my bad. I do this every single week. I turn my sound off for the thing that I do before, and then I can't hear anybody. Literally every week we do this. Okay, also I want to take this off of Facebook. Okay, hold on, stop, live stream. Okay, right before this, okay, I fixed it. So now I'll be able to hear. Let's go with Shlomi first, and then Rafi. I just want to say, right before this, I do a podcast with somebody, and we broadcast it live, but we also do it on an app called Clubhouse. But in order to do it on Clubhouse and Facebook, I have to shut off the sound on my computer and listen to the app. So every week I shut the sound off my computer, then I go directly into this thing, and then always forget and sit there and be like, why is everybody else's microphone's not working? And then it's me. Okay. Shlomi, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question.
Go ahead.
I was having a conversation with one of my friends that happens to be, let's just say, not as educated on Israel, or at least our position than others. And he was asking, and I said I didn't know enough, so I thought I would ask you, how can there be a peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict if there's going to be continued development of settlements for Jews in the West Bank, the Judea and Samaria, and there's destruction of Palestinian homes in Judea and Samaria? I said I didn't want to answer that because that'll be too hard for me. I wanted to refer to an expert.
It's funny because tonight, Peace Now put out they have a podcast. Okay, so and I'm friends with the head of Peace Now, so like we get along very well. And he said that that they're having a podcast with Jerusalem expert, and the guy's name is Daniel something. So I wrote on Twitter as a joke, like, what makes you a Jerusalem expert? How do you become a Jerusalem expert? You know, like, do you have a doctorate in Jerusalem? This guy doesn't have it. You know, like, so what does that mean? Like, you're an expert. So, and then I wrote, like, what makes you an expert in anything, right? What qualifies somebody as an expert in any area? Right? Like, in other words, right? I don't think I'm an expert in any area whatsoever. I teach about things, but I would never call myself an expert. I don't think that's modesty. I just don't think that I'm an expert in anything. Like, I feel like there's people that know more than me, so then how could I be the expert? Okay, so I don't think I'm an expert. I do think I have somewhat familiarity with this and can answer the question. So your friend's question supposes two things, which I think are bad assumptions. The first one is that in order to have peace with the Palestinians, there can't be Israeli settlements. That's number one, right? So, and that's not true. Who says that's true, right? That's number one. And number two, that any time that Israel's not destroying Palestinian homes, much to what the narrative is the other way. They're not going into Arab villages and knocking out villages. That's what your friend thinks. Your friend thinks that Israel's going in. Let's say there's like Susia is a perfect example. There's an Israeli town called Susia, and there's an Arab village called Susia south of Hebron. Okay, the town of Susia regularly plants themselves and moves their tents onto an army firing zone. Okay, they do this on purpose. I mean, you have to be nuts to do this, but they do this knowing that the tanks aren't going to fire as long as they're there. So they keep moving their tents into them and saying, this is where Susia is now. It's in the middle of the tank firing zone. And then Israel comes along, the army comes along and says, no, actually, that's where we fire our tanks. So we're moving you out. And then everybody says, look, it's Israel destroying yet another Palestinian village like they've been doing since 1948. Except for the fact, number one, it's the exact same village over and over again. Number two, they're not destroying an Arab village. They're destroying an Arab village that's been there for 6 hours, okay? So those are the houses that we're destroying. Israel does destroy terrorist houses as a deterrent to make sure that terrorists don't conduct attacks. You can argue on that and say that's not, but that's not widespread. That doesn't happen every day. That happens maybe once a month, once every 2 months. That's not preventing peace from happening, right? That's not what's going on. So your friend is, again, let's just to sum up, your friend is assuming two things that are wrong. First thing that they're assuming that they're wrong is that in order for there to be peace, there can't be Israeli settlements. That's very nice that the Arabs think that, but that's a ridiculous claim. There's no reason why that's true. Okay, there's no reason why we can't have peace and have Israeli towns. Just like if there's peace with the Palestinians, Israel's not going to destroy every single Arab town that exists over the Green Line on Israel's side, right? We're not going to tell every Arab in Jaffa, look, we're making peace with the Palestinians. You're a Palestinian, move over there. That's ridiculous. Just because I'm Jewish doesn't mean I can't live here. Okay, that's A. Okay. B, your friend is assuming that Israel is on a campaign to destroy Palestinian villages. That's also not true. I would ask your friend, hold on a second. I would just turn the question on your friend. How could there be peace? This is how I would respond. I wouldn't even go into those details. I would say, how could there be peace if the Palestinians refuse to negotiate for peace? Okay, number one. And number two, how can there be peace if the Palestinian Authority is currently paying over $400 million a year to incentivize its people to sponsor, to conduct terrorist attacks, right? So you'd be like, both sides are not working towards peace. Yes, that's the issue. If you're only going to blame one side, then you're not pro-Israel. If you're only going to expect Israel to move first and give up its deterrent factor and tell its people that they shouldn't be building because we want to, somehow hope that there's peace, that doesn't make sense. Okay. So that's the idea. So that doesn't work. Okay. Good. I don't know if that answers your question or not. I can see you.
It does. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay. Rafi, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about these. There's been reported that there's these leaked tapes of the foreign minister of Iran talking about how the now climate envoy, former Secretary of State, told him about over 200 missions of Israel into Syria, and Zarif, first of all, knew nothing about this. And what's John Kerry doing talking about Israel military operations? When was this? Did he do it under presidential order? I just don't understand what would lead to something like that.
Okay, so so here's the story. Let's see what Rafi. Let's get a little background. Okay, Iran has a religious leader who's the supreme leader. That's the Ayatollah. Okay, the Ayatollah, he's the main guy. You know how America has like 3 branches of government? Iran has about, and I'm not exaggerating, about 21, 22, something like that, branches of government, and they're all checks and balances on each other. But, and there's no way, I tried once to understand it. I don't believe that the people that are involved in it, that are in these branches of government, understand what's going on. But ultimately, the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, who was appointed by God himself, ultimately I don't believe that's what he believes. Ultimately, he's the decision maker of everything. Okay. Now there's a president of Iran and there's a parliament in Iran, and I'm sure they get to make decisions about important things like the color of the tiles in different rooms. But any major decision is going in front of the Ayatollah, and he's the guy making the call. Okay, he makes the decision. Iran also has a foreign minister. Today his name is Zarif. Okay, that's the foreign minister today. Now the president is named Rouhani. Okay. The president before Rouhani was a nutcase by the name of Ahmadinejad, who is still around. He tweets every once in a while in English. I don't know who runs his English Twitter account. He doesn't speak English. But that was the previous president. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad sounded like a nutcase every single time he talked, and it was great for Israel. Because every time he would get up, he would say something like the Holocaust never happened, and we're going to do it, but we're going to be the first ones to perpetrate the Holocaust. And crazy things like that. He went to Columbia University, had him speak, which was a huge controversy. He came to the UN and Columbia invited him to speak. This is like going back to like 2008 or something. And they asked him about gay rights in Iran, and he got up and said, "We don't have any homosexuals in Iran, so it's not an issue." And everybody's like, you think there's no homosexuals? And he's like, we hanged them all. You're the ones that are wrong. So he's like crazy. He's an absolute crazy nutcase. Okay, so this is so that's then Rouhani ran, and Rouhani played himself out as a moderate with his friend Zarif. That was going to be the foreign minister. Okay, so that was Rouhani. Rouhani was came off as a moderate. Now the truth is that Rouhani, this moderate, was actually on the committee that approved the bombings of adjacencies in Argentina. Okay, so this is the great moderate that we have that we're going to deal with Iran. Okay, that's our moderate. It's like the Palestinian moderate is Mahmoud Abbas, who has a doctorate in how the Holocaust was greatly exaggerated. Okay, so these are our moderate people who we can talk about, and they're considered moderate because they don't walk around saying we have to kill the Americans and the Israelis. So since they don't say that, we consider them moderates. Okay, so that's who we have. Good. Okay. Going forward. So you have now when the Obama administration was negotiating with the Iranians, so the negotiations were with this guy Zarif. That's who he's the foreign minister. He's the one, and who was the American negotiator was Secretary of State at the time, John Kerry. Okay, and John Kerry, a lot of people in Israel felt that he was way too biased toward the Iranians. He has Iranian family members. He has a son-in-law that's very close with the Zarif family and the Rouhani family. So there was a lot of things that we weren't too confident about. It turns out that he came up with a deal that we really felt was not good. Okay, it was not in our favor. So that's what we had. That's the story. Now, after John Kerry left being Secretary of State because Hillary Clinton didn't win the election and Donald Trump came in, obviously John Kerry was not going to continue as Secretary of State under Donald Trump. John Kerry kept up relationships with Iran, and it came out that he was doing things to undermine the Trump administration's efforts. Okay, and technically that's against American law, but nobody's been prosecuted for that law since I think it's 1781 or something. So John Kerry was not going to be arrested by Donald Trump. Okay, so that's okay. Came out this like 2 days ago, and none of this stuff is coincidence that it comes out. Okay, Iran and the Biden administration are getting very close to a deal. Okay, they're getting very, very close to a deal. So now's the time when Israel's going to start playing, some hanky panky here to make sure the deal doesn't go well. So what's the first thing Israel does to make sure the deal doesn't go well? Just as they're getting close, boom, everything explodes at Iran's the nuclear facility, right? Coincidence, right? That happens as the negotiations are getting close. Okay, good, fine. Then you have the second thing is now a 3-hour interview, and for the life of me, I do not understand people that do this. They give interviews and say that the interviews are confidential and you can't release them. I don't know why they're giving an interview for that purpose, but in any case, that's what Zarif did. Zarif gave an interview that was confidential. It wasn't supposed to be made public. I don't know which country, and I don't know who, but somebody got a hold of that and released it to the public. Okay, so again, I don't know who it is. I don't know which country would have a vested interest in making sure that Zarif, on the eve of signing a deal, would look like a fool. And that's exactly what the interview does. Zarif complains about the fact that he's completely out of the loop in Iranian decision making. This moderate that was supposed to be having such a great moderate influence on the Iranian Ayatollah actually wasn't getting a word in edgewise with him, wasn't meeting with him, had no say. Now I haven't seen the whole interview. The interview's obviously in Farsi, so I haven't seen it yet. But one of the major things that came out of the interview is that Secretary of State Kerry told Zarif that Israel had conducted over 200 military attacks on Iranian interests in Syria, and Zarif didn't know this. Now I don't know how Zarif didn't know this. I knew this, so I don't know. Like, how did Zarif not know this? Everyone's like, Zarif had no idea. John Kerry told him. I understand. Everybody knows that we're blowing stuff up in Syria. It's like every day Syria announces that they blew stuff up. There's like videos of it every single morning. You see a video of it the next morning. This isn't like new, right? We see this all the time. It doesn't like, this is quite obvious to us, that this is happening. So we're not getting the full story here, but John Kerry definitely told Zarif stuff that Zarif didn't know and wasn't, and definitely betrayed Israel's confidence. Okay, Israel tells America stuff, not so that America will go and tell Israel's enemies, right? That's obvious. Donald Trump did that. I don't know if anybody remembers this. It's also interesting for me to keep in mind that when I tell you stuff about Donald Trump, I'm talking to people who are 18, 17, 16 years old. And when Donald Trump did something at the beginning of his administration, that means that you were 13, the oldest of you. And so, right, so you might not remember it. Well, to me, like it's all meshed into one thing. Yeah,
Can I
right.
guess?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're like you were born 40 years old. But go ahead, yeah.
Well, thanks. That one never gets old. It was when Trump in the Oval Office told the Russian ambassador about these military plans that Israel had given to top U.S. officials under the condition of confidentiality.
Right. Yes. So Trump blabbered to the Russian foreign minister to show him how much he knew what was going on. The Russian foreign minister had no idea, and it was something that Israel had said confidentially. And then that essentially told Israel, "Hey, you can't tell this guy anything because he can't shut up." You know, that's like so you can't trust Trump with confidential information, which is insane. We can't trust the president of the United States because he can't shut his mouth. Okay, but that's what happens when you have an undisciplined president. Okay, so in any case, that's what John Kerry did. He betrayed Israel's trust. It seems to us. Now we don't have the full story. We don't know everything, but that's what you're reading, Rafi. So if you're asking like what's behind the story, I can't tell you 100% what's behind the story because we don't know what's going on. One thing we do know, but we've known this for a while, is that Israel should not trust John Kerry. Okay, that we know, and we haven't trusted him since he made the original, Iran deal, for good reason. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's go on to some of the things we said we talk about here. Okay, we said the Jerusalem riots. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen this in the news. I don't know if you haven't seen this in the news. I just spoke about this for like 45 minutes on this podcast show thing I do. There are riots in Jerusalem. Now, what does that mean? I was in Jerusalem today. It's perfectly safe. I saw Hodiah, you went to school in Jerusalem today. You were perfectly safe. Okay, you don't walk around the streets of Jerusalem and there's like mass riot. Okay, there is one section outside of the old city called in Hebrew Shar Shem. In English, it's called the Damascus Gate. Why the name is named after a city in Syria in English and a city in Israel in Hebrew? I'm sure there's some answer to that question. Somebody has, like some tour guide knows. I have no idea. It's always perplexed me, but not enough for me to actually try to find out the answer. Okay. In this area, for those of you that know it, you know it. For those of you that have been to Israel and you've gone to the old city, so you've never gone this way. Okay. Only wackos like me go because it's for me. It's not only wackos. It's people that are incredibly lazy like myself. One thing I don't like about the old city is the you're always going down into the old city is very easy because you go down steps. When you go out of the old city, so you always have to go up steps. I worked for a year in the old city and I refused to go to the hotel because I would need like a shower afterwards. It was so hot and you have to walk up those steps and it like killed me. My friend owns an elevator there and I would always beg him if he could use his elevator, but a lot of times he's not there. So I couldn't get the elevator. But if you go through the Damascus Gate, which again, I don't suggest anyone on this call does, if you go through the Damascus Gate, it's a straight shot to and from the Kotel with no steps. Okay, and for me, that's like I haven't done an Ironman in ever, so I'm not in the best shape. So I love going through the Damascus Gate. It's amazing. It takes me right to a great parking lot that I know by my car. I can get parking by the old city. It's all good. Okay, so I really love it. Okay, even if you go, Hodiah's father works right outside the old city. To go from like where he works, which is about a 3-minute drive to right up to the Kotel. But if you walk from where he is in the city of David to the Kotel, I could have a car in it by the time I get up that hill. Okay, it is, and I know everybody in Yerushalayim used to do it, but I can't. Okay, it kills me every time. Okay, so in any case, Shar Shem, just to give you a picture. You know what? I don't have to paint you a picture. I can show you a picture. Let's do this the technological way. Damascus. Hello, Geller. Damascus.
Rough. Nice background.
Well, thank you. I stole it myself. Okay, so here we go. This is one day. I'll tell everybody else's story. Geller knows it, which is why I say okay. Here is, I'm trying to find the best picture of the Damascus Gate. Here's a good picture of the Damascus Gate. I don't know why it says Jerusalem Hotel. Let's just see if I can get it big. before I share it. Just make sure there's nothing. Wow, this is great. Okay, here we go. Share screen and ta-da. Okay, everybody sees the Damascus Gate. Looks beautiful. It is very nice. Okay. Can you guys see my mouse here going around by the entrance?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, great. So here's the story. This whole area right over here is a large open area. And if you could see behind it, it's really massive. Okay. And this area has tons of Palestinian Arabs over here. What? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, you have tons of Palestinian Arabs over here. Okay, it is also a great shortcut, not just for fat, shaped people like me, but also if you live in Mea Shearim and you're ultra-Orthodox Haredi. So if you're an American tourist and you go from Mea Shearim to the Kotel, you're going to take a 45-minute route and go all the way around to Shar Yafo. But if you're a Haredi and you know where you're going, it's a 15-minute walk from Mea Shearim to the Kotel, going through Shar Shechem. Okay. Now, the issue is, as you can see, it goes from a very large, wide area to a very thin, narrow area as you get into the gate. As you go into this gate, it leads you into an Arab shuk, not the Arab shuk that Geller showed today on his Inside Israel broadcast, but a different Arab shuk, which is very thin. Okay, very, very thin. And you walk through some really hairy spots. Okay, now I'll be honest with you, I carry a gun, so I don't really mind. And I tuck my shirt in under my gun so everybody sees my gun when I walk through, because I want them to know I'm not the guy to mess with. Okay, so you go through this gate, and that's how it goes. Now, normally, 360 days out of the year, everybody ignores each other. No one cares. Okay, but when tensions get high, like they are today, so then violence happens. There's a lot of violence going on. Okay, there's violence of Arabs who have this TikTok challenge going on, where you punch an ultra-Orthodox Jew and get it on TikTok, and then you are I don't know, like it's cool. Okay, so I don't think you actually win anything. Then there's just Arabs that are upset over the fact that this is actually a very let's see if we can get here picture of the prayers. Let's see. I thought I saw one. That's odd. Goats. That's not the picture I'm looking at. During Ramadan, which is right now, which is the Arab holy time. Okay, I don't see where they have a picture of all the prayer. Is this? Yeah, here we go. This is, if you guys can see this picture with like a lot of Arabs, they all pray during Ramadan at Shar Shechem. Okay, so that's what you have. You have a lot of Arabs. Now the police until last night, for some reason, weren't giving permits for the Arabs to pray at the Damascus Gate. I don't know why. And they weren't giving a lot of Arabs the permits to go onto the Temple Mount, where they have their nightly, what's called an iftar. Okay, an iftar is a break fast at dinner every night of Ramadan. You have an iftar, and a lot of people like to do it on the Temple Mount. They actually bring like a picnic on the Temple Mount. Okay, so okay. So that's the okay. I just want to make sure I'm letting somebody in who I don't know. I don't know him. So I just want to make sure. Okay, let's just make. Anybody know this guy? Just make sure that. Okay, that's fine. I'm a little nervous here, but give me 1 second here because I just don't know. Thomas, can you turn on your camera? We just don't know who you are. Just introduce yourself. Thomas. Tomas.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. Sorry. Wait a minute. I am here. I was in a meeting. That's why I was.
Where are you from?
I have to introduce myself.
I would like you to. Yes.
Okay. But first, I want to say thanks, Rabbi. I want to say, well, my Spanish, my English is a little bit Spanglish. But
where do you live?
I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We're now in Buenos Aires.
Oh, okay. I do know you. You're Carol's friend.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, good. I just didn't know if you were going to disrupt it. Okay, you don't have to introduce yourself. This is Thomas. He runs a Zionist group in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And how do we say it? So give me 1 second. I don't remember. Okay, I'm going to make it flow myself, so I'm going to stop. But Baruch haba. We'll say that. He speaks Hebrew fluently also. Okay, so here we go. So Thomas, we're just in the middle of talking about the riots in Yerushalayim. Okay, so you have all of these. So you have this TikTok thing going on, and you have the Ramadan thing that they're upset about. Okay, and then so they start attacking ultra Orthodox Jews. Okay, then what you have is you have Jewish extremists that comes in, especially from a group called Lava that come in, and they're not supposed to be there. There's no reason for them to be there except to start trouble. And they like going there, and then they start throwing rocks and start hitting Arabs and screaming death to Arabs, which is never okay. It is never okay to say death to Arabs, okay? Never. Just that there's never an appropriate time to say death to Arabs. There's no situation. If we go to war against Syrian Arabs, okay, no commander in the Israeli army will or should say death to the Arabs. He might say, carry out your mission and kill all those Syrian soldiers, but he will never say death to the Arabs. Never an appropriate time to say death to the Arabs. So now what you have is, then you have the two narratives going on and everybody yelling at each other. Okay, so that's what's going on in Jerusalem riots. What we should recognize as Israel advocates, because that's what's important for us, is that when telling over what's happening, we should say that there are people that are wrong on both sides, but this is the problem with the conflict, okay? Your Arabs attacking Jews is not okay, and Jews attacking Arabs is not okay, but there's a context to what's happening. And this is not, and this is the most important thing to get across, this is not a situation of what you're seeing in America of white policemen beating up black people. I don't even know if that's what's happening in America, but in any case, there is a narrative in America, and those same people are saying that that's what's happening in Israel now. It's straight out racism. It's the exact racism that you're seeing in America now happening in Israel. And really what they're going to say is it actually started in Israel. Israeli police train American police, and that's how this is all happening. Okay, that's literally the narrative that you're going to hear. And what has to be made clear, what I've been making clear to elected officials, and what I've been trying to make clear on social media, is that what happens in America is not what happens in Israel. You cannot project your agenda item from what you're trying to fix in Minnesota, what you're trying to fix in Florida. You cannot put that onto Jerusalem. That's not what's happening here at all. Okay, this is about two people who want to walk to where they want to get to without being interfered by anybody else. The Arabs want to be able to go where they want to go without the Israeli police and the Israeli army, and the Jews want to go where they want to go without being stopped by Arabs. That's what's happening here. Is there built up tension from a 100-year-old conflict? Yes. Is this going to get solved by some massive peace process where where Jews leave the West Bank and open up Gaza? No. Does anybody involved in this care about those issues? No. This is a very localized issue to a very localized neighborhood, and the Israeli police generally know how to get things under control within a few days, okay? And that's what you're seeing now. The Israeli police give out more permits. They allow Arabs to pray at the Damascus Gate, and then tensions start to relax, okay? So that's what's happening. But again, the main point I want to get across is that we have to be very clear that this is not the race problems that you have in America playing itself in Israel. Good? Okay. Any question? Yeah, Shira.
Is there anything we can do actively, like as pro-Israel students? Is there anything we could do, like in relationship to the riots?
I think that what we should always do is we should write letters to our members of Congress saying that we appreciate their support at this time. It's a troubling time, but I do think that if we're going to write something, I don't think we should write about the riots. I think that we should be contacting about Iran. And everything we say should be Iran, over and over. Everything should be about Iran. Okay, that's what I think is very important. I don't think this thing is going to blow over. In 2 weeks, no one's going to remember this. Okay, that's now things are heating up by Gaza. The Hamas is sending rockets. Tonight, there's a reporter in Israel who's I don't like him in terms of how he talks, and I don't like him in terms of his political views. But I don't believe there's anyone better at breaking stories. I think that anyone in Israel that has like a secret story that they want to tell, they call a guy named Barak Ravid. Okay, and I think that just everything. So Barak Ravid put out tonight that, and if you want to know what's really going on in Israel, follow him on Twitter. He has a Hebrew account and an English. Sorry, he only has one account that he tweets in Hebrew and in English, but it's generally just translation of what he wrote in Hebrew. He writes in English, so it's not like you're missing any of the Hebrew. You don't have to worry. If it's important, he'll put it out in English also, and he speaks fluent English. So Barak, but I definitely suggest that you follow him on Twitter. Okay, so Barak Ravi put out tonight that Israel gave an ultimatum to Hamas. Okay, that if they don't get the rockets under control by tomorrow, Israel is going to start a large military campaign. Okay, and I know from different things that that's not a bluff. Okay, Israel is right now preparing for a large military campaign in Gaza. Okay, that's a very real possibility. If rockets land tonight from Gaza to Sderot and to the south of Israel, we could be looking at something major by Shabbos. Okay, and again, keep in mind the way things work in Gaza is about every 5 or 6 years there's a major blow up. Okay, that's an operation that usually lasts between 3 to 6 weeks. The last time there was something major in Gaza was 2014, as about 6.5 years ago. Okay, so that's and it's usually in the summertime. So we got the right season, we've got the right amount of time, we've got rockets flying, and we've got Bibi Netanyahu who's got to really rally the troops here because he's got 8 days to form a government before he can be looking at him on the way out. So that's so you have all the features for a perfect storm are happening. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, going on. One last thing, and then we'll call it a night or a day, depending on where in the world you are right now. So elections. So what's going on with elections? So Bibi Netanyahu is having trouble forming a coalition. He's not forming a coalition. I have a Likud, major Likud guy on my block. I've never seen this guy as nervous as he is now. I mean, this guy is walking around nervous like crazy. Bibi Netanyahu is offering away everything. He offered Aryeh Deri to be prime minister. To offer Aryeh Deri prime minister, let me just try to explain the equivalent in America of what that would be. But that would be like President Biden turning to Bernie Sanders and saying, it's not even Bernie Sanders, like even crazier than Bernie Sanders. But Aryeh Deri went to jail. Okay, he's a former convict. He went to jail, got out of jail, waited the requisite amount that according to Israeli law you have to wait after serving a jail sentence for corruption in politics to be able to get back into politics. And this guy might now be prime minister because that would be the only way that Bibi could get in. Not only did Bibi offer Aryeh Deri to be prime minister, not only did he offer Benny Gantz to be prime minister, which is hilarious because if Benny Gantz believes him, my God, I don't know how he ever ran the army. Okay, but if Benny Gantz, he offered them they can go first, that they could be prime minister first, which is like I don't know. Bibi's got to have some angle, but and I don't know what it is, but he offered that. So Bibi's really just offering away everything to try to form this coalition. If Bibi can't do it within the next 8 days, then what happens is that President Rivlin will turn to Yair Lapid and offer Yair Lapid to form the government. Whether Yair Lapid will be able to or not, he'll have 30 days and then maybe even 60 days, but I don't think President Rivlin is going to give him that much time. And then if he can't form a government, if he forms a government, then he or whoever, whatever deal he makes will become prime minister, and Bibi Netanyahu will be in the opposition. Bibi Netanyahu will not be allowed to be a minister. He'll only be allowed to be a member of Knesset because you can't be a minister under indictment. You can be a minister, you can't be a member of the Knesset. So Bibi Netanyahu will just be a regular old member of the Knesset. He'll probably be the leader of the opposition though, but he'll be a very good member of the Knesset, and then somebody else will be prime minister. If Yair Lapid cannot form a government, then we will go to fifth elections sometime in October, which is why not? We seem to love elections here a lot, so that's what. But Naftali Bennett is trying very hard to avoid a fifth election. He's trying everything he can. The one person that, there's a couple of people, but the one person you would think that he would have offered to be prime minister and didn't is Naftali Bennett. He has yet to offer Naftali Bennett to be prime minister. So while Yair Lapid offered Naftali Bennett to be prime minister, it would be a little ridiculous for Naftali Bennett to be prime minister only because Naftali Bennett only got 7 seats. So to get 7 seats and then become prime minister is like, it's not, I really think it's not right. I think it's not, I think it's really not right that Aryeh Deri becomes prime minister also. I think that's really wrong. But to have somebody that gets under 10 seats and be prime minister of the country when so few people vote for him, just to give you an idea, only about, I think 30,000 people voted for, I don't know how to say this in English, only 30,000 more people voted for Naftali Bennett than for Meretz. Okay, so just to show you, like, it's a very slim margin. So Naftali Bennett should, like, if you're a Meretz voter, so Naftali Bennett should be prime minister and not us because he's right with, it's very disturbing. Okay, that's all I have to talk about. Does anybody else have any? Rafi, it looks like Libertarian nominee. Yeah, right, exactly. Somebody we never heard of. Right, like what's his name? And Jared Amos, whatever his name is. Okay, so okay, this is Rand Paul, right? Does anybody have any questions before we go? Okay, let me just give you a little update on the coming weeks. I have no idea what Debbie Wasserman Schultz's staff does all day long. I do know that what they don't do is reschedule their appointment with us. I know that they do cancel their appointments with us pretty frequently, but I do know that they are not rescheduling their appointment with us. I don't know why. So that's that. But on the positive spin, I have Marco Rubio's staff I spoke to, and we might get them either next week or the week after. Great guy named JR. He's awesome. I love him. He's known him for years. He's really great. And so we might get him. And I don't know if anybody, Daniel, when did we go and meet with the Rubio young staff member in the Senate? We met with her. Her name was Bethany. Remember?
That was Bethany Poulos. I think that was a couple years ago already. Well, that wasn't the past couple of years.
A couple years ago because of Corona.
No, I'm saying we met with Marco Rubio's staff during the summer lobbying mission in December, and we met with a different staffer then. That wasn't.
I think that it was then. But anyway, so she's going to be joining also, and she's the foreign policy person for Rubio in Washington. So it'll be a very serious. What?
She's been there for. I lobbied her when I was a student.
I don't know. She looks like she's like 20 to me, but in any case, she's obviously a little older right now. In any case, so that's it's funny because like she looks like she's 20 and Rafi seems like he's 40. So figure something. Obviously, my age groups are not not on par here. But in any case,
all evens out, Rabbi.
All right, everybody's 30. So that's the story. So in any case, so we do have some exciting things coming up. And then I'm hoping this is Carol's doing. This Thomas who's here with us. Thomas leads a Zionist youth group in Argentina of kids who speak English, and then we would like to do a joint event together. So that would be very cool. Us and the Argentinians. Thomas, could your students get together for an event like this? If we got a good speaker, we get a good speaker, not me. We got a good speaker to do something together. Would that be good?
You are the best, Rabbi. You are the best.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
That you are the best.
I'm the best. Thank you. You've heard me for like 15 minutes. Okay, so
And your son.
I don't know what you just said, but I feel like it's a flattering remark. But in any case, so we'll talk on WhatsApp and see if we can work that out. But I think that'd be very cool if we got a good speaker and we did something cool and meet with Argentinian kids, and it'll be very cool. So that's what we've got in the works. We'll try to get more lobbying sessions. We want to get as many lobbying sessions as possible, evidently. So we'll get more. Is everybody here following the Instagram account of Inside Israel? If you're not, do that now. Inside Israel. Okay, follow that Instagram account. We need to get 20,000 followers, and right now we're at 1,900. So you guys will put us over that way. Okay, everybody, there it is. Inside. Oh, Israel Insider. Okay, sorry, I run a program site. Israel Insider. Okay. Don't look for Inside Israel. I mean, you may look for that also. That's probably a great account as well if it exists. But Israel Insider, it's in the chat. Okay, so that's what it's called. I follow it every day. I watch everything. Have a great day, everybody. A great week. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. See you guys.
Bye.
Stay on.
I'm on.